Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lost Magics. So tonight is just myself. My lovely co-host Jana is unwell, and so is her son. So she's unable to join me on the panel tonight. But she does say she will be back very soon, and she will emerge from her chambers of sleep very, very soon, guys. So please wish her lots of love to her and her son that is feeling unwell at the minute. So tonight we're going to be talking about, well, I'm going to be talking to you about a legend and creature that is known as the Strigoi. Now, this creature was asked to be researched by a certain member in the room at the time. They'd said, why don't you cover this creature? So I'd done some research. I knew a little bit that it was in between a gargoyle and a vampire sort of species. So it was a very interesting thing to be going into and looking at. So I'd done some research, more further research and stuff, and got some very interesting facts about it, a bit of history, information about the creature itself. They are meant to be associated with vampires. Some of them do suck blood, some of them don't. There is a lot behind them. They are very strange creatures. I'm going to start by showing you the pictures of them first, actually, because I think I'm going to do that this time round so that you can see the pictures of what the different versions of them are meant to look like. So we go into the Facebook. So you've got this one. As I said, it looks very much like a troll sort of looking creature. Very pale greyish skin. Some of them have got very long hands with very long claws. Some of them have got some sort of spiked hair sort of area on them. They look very scary looking. They're in, like I said, in between looking like a troll and like a goblin, but I've got the traits of vampire ways as well. So the next one is this one. This one is a more darker version of the Strigoi. He is a very dark grey to black colour. Again, very long fingers and nails, claws, as you would say. By this, it looks like he's got some sort of skull or something in his head. Now, it is said that some of these creatures are supposed to be known to go only after the dead, and some of them go after the living. So it really does depend on them, to be quite honest. This is one in the graveyard. They are mostly known to be around them sort of areas, graveyards and stuff. As I said, some of them are known to feed upon the bodies of the dead, take any last liquid or anything that the body may give off. And then others, as I said, do go after the living in search of blood or other reasons. This is more of a up-to-date-ish sort of look of what one of these Strigois would look like. Again, as I said, very gargoyle looking and very goblin looking. Really, really scary actually, and I don't think I'd want to come face to face. Here, as you can see, very manly looking as well. So that in parts of the area of them, they look very manly, where the rest of them look very monster-like. Some of these are said to also be able to take the form of a human. Seems there are different types. Very gargoyle-like. I don't know what's happened there. I just had the pictures and now it's disappeared. Typical. Where are we? We was on this one. Okay. Back to the picture again. They'd got wings, very gargoyle-like. They fly and things like that. I'm very sorry about my dog. For some reason, he's just got the whinges at the moment. You'll have to just bear with that. This one looks very stone-looking, standing up on the grass. Again, in seek of his victim, no doubt. Another one of him just standing there. And then, no, not them ones, right? So bringing them off. Stop sharing. So yeah, they're very weird looking, very scary looking. As I said, very in between gargoyle and troll looking, with that feature behind them of being like vampires as well. So I'm going to get into giving you a little bit of history about these creatures. I hope that you do enjoy the show. A big shout out to everybody that is in the room, to all of our supporters and everybody that helps to put our shows out there, and obviously to our Bold and Bonk boys for letting us do this awesome show. Hello, Dragon Stolen. I'm sure it was actually Dragon that said to me about doing the Strigoi. So you've just come in time, my darling. I hope that you are all right. Please bear in mind there may be some glitches and stuff as well, guys, because the internet does not seem to be working right, and neither does the StreamYards. It seems to go in and out on everybody's stream at the minute. So I don't know what's going on there. I do apologise. I have still got to put the stuff out for the Dracula's castle and everything, and I'm also going to be putting this stuff for this show out as well, guys. I've just been really busy this week and had lots going on, so bear with me. So let's get on with this. And we've got Smith family, Dragon, Michelle. Hello, my angels. I hope you're all okay. Not really sure which one you're in, but you are there somewhere. Please share out, guys. Right. History. After this destruction of Lamina and Ushran, Lord of Masks, travelled to Murkane, the capital of the Strigois Emperor in the Badlands. He slew its ruler, the Nescramancer Cadon, and claimed the land for himself. The Strigoi population grew prosperous, and Ushran ruled for centuries with a cabal of vampires raised from the human nobility. These nobles were the Strigoi's vampires. However, a massive green skin Waj came from the World's Edge Mountains and destroyed the Murricane and the Strigoi's civilization. The few mortal survivors were forced north and became a wandering nomadic people known as the Strigoi. They are often persecuted by the northern civilization for no other reason than their dark past. Not all of the vampires of the Strigoi destiny were destroyed with Ushran. Some survived and fled to the human kingdoms in the north in need of sorcerer. They searched for others of their kind and eventually found them in the forests of Slovenia. But the vampire counts of the land still remained the arrogance of Ushran and turned on their world-be allies without a word of Pearly hunting them down like animals in the woods. Nefertre's children, the Lemanum sisterhood, showed them no mercy. Either those the Strigoi were forced to live on the edges of society, pursued by vampires and vampire hunters alike. They become desperate creatures. Soon they were fleeing from the blood dragon and the Nescriches, who regarded them as challenging foes and interesting specimens. respectively afraid to feed on the living for fear of attracting attention both from mortals and other vampires. They hid in graveyards, feasting on the blood of those recently dead. Gradually, their hate, jealousy, and bitterness over what they had lost, and their brutal treatment at the hands of their own kind began to destroy their minds and wrap their bodies with and wrapped the, warped their bodies, which were already close to the surface, reflecting their relatively fabric origins. Years of hiding and feasting on corpses has left them as less than human creatures. They become hunched monstrosities, hulking creatures of muscle that have no human resemblance. They were mostly mad but still immensely powerful, and like all vampires, have a strong grasp for necromantic magic, even if it isn't as refined as their own vampire cousins. They are often surrounded by ghouls, indeed, people call them ghoul kings. The ghoul kings spend their days creeping. Get on your bed! Get on your bed! Creeping through the hidden places of the world, but under cover of night. They will wreak their vengeances at the hand of the shambling army of undead. From catacombs, haunted woods, and moss-covered ruins, they would spy on their Leherman and the von Kostreen vampires. At the balls and baskets of the Strigoi, the nobility and wealth of their finely dressed king reminded the Strigoi of what they had lost, and the bitterness and envy started to go on at their minds. In their disillusion, many of them lost their sanity completely and became solitary, pathic, and parasites, wary of feeding on human for fear of attracting the attention of witch hunters or even worse, their own contemptuous kin. For this reason, they hid in graveyards, digging out recently buried corpses to drink their cold, foetid blood, and hiding during the day in the dark crypts near the feeding grounds. Packs of the flesh-eating crypt ghouls are attracted to these dismal Strigoi and often form grotesque courts around them. Grave robbers and those who steal from the bodies of the fallen have learned well that they must practice their disbraven craft in the twilight and be home before nightfall. Under cover of darkness, different breeds of scavengers fall on these places of death. Swarm of ghouls led by deadly hunters, the Strigoi vampires. It is little wonder that the people of Sylvania refer to the Strigoi as the Ghoul Kings, even if most of them have to some degree lost their minds during their long exile. The Ghoul Kings still possess many of the infinite powers common to all vampires. They can tear out a victim's throat in the blink of an eye, and their authority over the undead and the myriad creatures of the night is still strong. The Ghoul Kings have not lost their power to raise the dead from their slumber and to bind them to their will, but they do so in their own instinctual way. Their magic is less suitable than the forms of necromancy practiced by other vampires. But in the cut and the thirst of combat, Their savagery gives them a definite edge. At times, powerful Strigoi Gold Kings raised vast armies of the living dead around themselves and pushed south in a desperate attempt to recreate the kingdom they lost. So far, their advance has always been halted by warmongering tribes of greenskins blocking the way to the bad land, or by disciplined armies of the tomb kings that stride out from the desert. Yet across the old world, the minions of the Ghoul Kings have sighted ever more frequently. Some say the ancient brethrens of the Strigoi are uniting under one leader and massing great armies of degenerate beasts in their cavernous lairs. If this is true, no creature living or dead is truly safe from their wrath. So the story behind this is that they had their own civilization and they were very vastly growing. But then some of their enemies and their own brothers, sisters, cousins, this would be the vampires, and that actually went against them and took away their land and dismissed them from their land, where they had to go and find further refuge in the north and the south places of where they were, and even going as far as having to be in graveyards and feeding off of the bodies of just past people and taking whatever they could get from them bodies, as they was only shortly been laid to rest, so there would still be some things happening to the body. So for this reason they become the Ghoul Kings. They were known as creatures of the darkness, creatures that done unloyal and unlawful things. They become what you would call peasants and scavengers, you know, creatures that would feed off things that others were not interested in, or something that they could get to easily because they were not able to get to the full feast. In this category, through all of the horrible things that happen to their civilization and to them, they become very weary and very scared of actually feeding off of a living human being. So therefore, that's why they resided to go into the corpses and feed in that way. And for that reason, they got the name that they got. And they're looked at as rather disgraceful creatures, I guess, and creatures that are, as I said, known as scavengers and stuff, because they had no choice. That it was either to survive or let their breed disappear, obviously. So they had to go to some vast ways to be able to keep surviving. They are in the complex of trying to get their land back, which is known as the Bad Land. They are trying to get that back. They are trying to come back into ruling. And at the minute, they keep finding themselves at a halt. There's things that will happen that seem to keep stopping them. There are certain creatures of the darkness that stand in the way of their goal. But they are coming together with one ruler that they all rule, and they are bringing new breeds and new creatures and new things forward, according to this, that are going to help them to hopefully be able to bring back over their rightful kingdom. So these creatures are very much vampire related. They very much are the cousins of vampires. They just intended to look different because of the things that they have to do to be able to survive, and due to how they were treated as well. So the 8th edition, which is the nobles, which is the law of the vampires. So you have Yushuran, Gashang, Ramtep, and Vorgig Bloodtooth, aka Void the Gold King, and Strigoi armies. Whilst many vampires lead forces that comprise seemingly endlessly masses of shambling zombies, and ordered regiments of skeleton warriors, the Strigoi are more likely to at the head of vast huntings pack of lesser vampires and ghouls. Some of these ghouls are stronger, quicker, and more reliable, forming a charnel guard and war band of Starguni may also join in the hunt, eager to exact revenge on those that prosecuted them. Then you have the Lords, Vampire Lord, the Vampire Count, Heroes, Vampire Thrall. Then you've got the first, which is the core, Bat Swan, Charmel Guard, Ghouls, and Strigoi. And then you've got the special species, which are dare wolves, fell bats, skeletons, and spirit hosts. And then you've got your rare ones, which are known actually to also be related with banshees and dog of war, weapons and equipment that they would use. The 8th edition hand weaponed many had magic items and vampiric powers, many be mounted on a terraquist. Notes. Originally, the term Strigoi referred to the bloodline of vampires that originated from the Strigoi's empire. After the bloodline were removed from the game and the Ghoul King were invented, some changes were made to the terms of used. Strigoi, the people from the Strigoi's empire, the vampires who escaped its destruction, who developed into the Ghoul Kings. Strigoi, the descendants of the few mortals who survived the fall of the Strigoi's empire. It is also worth noting that since the removal of bloodlines, any developed vampire can seem to become Ghoul King, with some von Crestine members being such. Strigoi Ghoul Kings become a specific type of vampire in the Warhammer armies, vampire counts, and the 8th edition. So there are different categories to who they are, that they have different lines of work, different factors and features that they would be within that colony. So you've got your higher levels, which would be, your vampire gods, your vampire kings, your vampire counts. Then it goes down the list to Strigoi being one of the lowest counts, even though they're not looked at by many as being a low count of a creature, because they are still very powerful. They have still got their vampiric powers, even though they're not as powerful as their cousins or brothers. They have still got a power. They have still got that significant urge for blood. Some of them not so much. Over time, where they've had to change and they've had to change their way of living, some of them still have the thirst for blood. Some of them are more for the bodies now and going for those that are already dead. So some of them no longer have that vampire thirst because they've had to get used to the change within themselves and because of what happened to their civilization. So part 2. Strigoi, vampires in Romania. Strigoi is a character from Romanian mythology. In Romanian, Strigoi means the scream. There are blood parasites called Strigoi. The original story came from ancient Greek and the Roman legend of Sphinx creatures, a bird of ill omen which fed on human blood and flesh. They are also known as vampires. Strigoi, or vampires, are considered lethargic and drowsy during day and active during the night. They attack their victims during the night, leaving teeth marks on the corpses. Many vampire myths started in Romania, in the area called Transylvania. It is the birthplace of the most famous vampire, Dracula. You can tell if someone is a Strigoi vampire if the dead body was frequently preserved or swelled and turned black before burial, has a small hole in the headstone so that he can get out and in his coffin, laying in the coffin facing down with blood near him, never eat garlic, etc. It is believed that they have superhuman speed and strength, shapeshift abilities, immortality, astral projection, and invisibility. In this legend, one can become Strigoi by suicide, cursed by a witch born with extra nipples or tail, have a life full of sin, died alone and unseen, been born as the seventh son of the seventh son, or seventh daughter of the seventh daughter, child born without marriage, born too early, died before baptized, was bitten, etc. Strigoi can manifest as a poltergeist and troublesome ghost spirit, which makes physical disturbances like moving and destroying objects, loud noises, and tripping, hitting, touching, and biting people. They haunt a particular person, not the place. So it's a lot more easier for them to be able to fit in because they're able to go invisible. They're able to do certain characteristics that would very much resemble a spirit or a ghost, so people would not be so obvious to them being around, which would make their prey and killing a lot more easier. There are different types of stories. It is known as a vampire who drained victims' blood. It can be a witch. They can be alive people, living Strigoi sorcerers with magical powers like invisibility and transform into an animal. It is believed that they have two souls of two hearts. They send the other soul out at night to be with other Strigoi and drink humans' blood. Male Strigois can have children with a human developer, which is a half vampire and half human. Female Strigoi will try to have a normal life, get married, but soon their sexual enthusiast and then they will kill their husband. So it's said that they're able to live within the human place as well, having two souls, two hearts, one part of them going to the dark side, which is them as the Strigoi, and the other part living a normal life, impregnating, becoming parents, obviously populating their colony and bringing in hybrid, because hybrid would be half vampire, half Strigoi, and half human, which would make them even more powerful. It can be a dead Strigoi, troubled spirit of the dead rising from the grave, returned to his family, behaves like nothing happened, and weakens family members until they die. They don't have a soul, their body is just the outer shell. Romanian legend says it is a good way to protect from vampires to kill a pig on St. Lantricius Day. If someone could be Strigoi, the prevention was to strike and stake through the chest of the dead, or take out his art and burn it, or beheading the dead at putting the head in the coffin face down, or to seal the coffin with nails heavily. You repel a vampire by placing thorns across thresholds, paint crosses on doors, put garlic everywhere, and stay inside with light on and pray. Gypsies believe in exhuming the dead body of the person believed to be the Strigoi, remove its heart and cut it into, put a nail in its forehead, put garlic under its tongue so it won't rise, and cover Strigoi bodies with pig fat killed on a particular gypsy holiday, and put its body face down. If he ever wakes up, it would be heading to the afterlife. It's said that the 30th of November, St. Andrew's Day, is the beginning of the winter in Romania, and is believed that Strigoi are going to compete to bring sadness and misfortune to humans. They compete in who will disturb the most people. So that a lot of their ways and characteristics is fighting against each other and trying to be better than the other. And so it really is not very good for humans and people that are living, if they were out to get you around these times of years. They are dangerous to you at any time of the year, but the 30th of November apparently is one of the most known dates that they would come out. And no living soul, animal or creature would be safe with them roaming. Most definitely not. So I'm really sorry, my sinuses are really bad. The series of hideous crimes, suspected vampire attacks, were reported. Juragrando, a villager from Croatia, lived in the 17th century, was the first real person described as a vampire. He was called Strigoi, and local word for vampire from the 18th century was Striga. Was mentioned in legends in Transylvania and the Moldova. Peter Balaga Jemcic, a peasant from Siberia, lived in the 18th century and was believed to be transformed into a vampire after his death and to kill his fellow vengers in the 19th century. Strigoi stories was more placed in Transylvania folklore. Hello everybody, how are you? I am so very sorry. Like the stuff's not as long as I wanted it to be, because there was going to be two of us on, but because Sis is not very well, I have only got my part of it, as this would be going on longer. I've got that part. I've got a couple of little facts things I could try and look up to see if I can get any more information or anything like that to just like relay over to you, but I am really trying to prolong this out. Is there anything that anyone wants to give over and say that I can read out? Let me go over the chat for a minute to try and try to. Is there anybody that knows anything about Strigoi and vampires and stuff like that? Anybody that would like to come up maybe and join me and give us a little bit more useful information? Yes, it was. It was in Romania. There was one in 2005. Yeah. I'm going to see if I can find anything else. And I do it again. I do apologise, guys. I only done my part of it because normally there is two, but poor Sis is not very well at the minute. So let me see who's in the room. So we got Christine Day. Hello, darling. We got Dragon. We've got my lovely Jacqueline. We've got my lovely Smith family. We've got my pups, Danny Wolf. Hello, pups. Love you lots. Lovely Mittens. Then we've got a Facebook user. Hello, Nigel. Hope you are well. We have got Michelle. And I'm sure my fella is watching as well, so coughing as well. So big shout out to all of you. And if you're watching, let me just have a drink because my throat's going a bit in and out because I've gave up the tobacco stuff and I'm starting to feel it in my throat. So now I'm smoking a special plant that is a tobacco replacement and it's doing absolutely amazing, but all of the nicotine and stuff is playing havoc. Oh, awesome. I'll bring that up in a minute then. Is that in the room? Why am I not seeing anybody in the room? Which rooms are you in, guys? Are you in the thank you to the Facebook user. I'm trying to find the link. Are you in the Bold and Bonker chat? Because it's not showing up that you're in the Bold and Bonker chat, or are you on my PWI Spiritual Investigators? Let me just go and check that you're not in that one. I'm on the Bold and Bonkers bit looking at the minute. I do apologise, guys. Right. I will find you in a minute. Okay, yeah. I found you all in here. Hello, guys. Right, I'm going to bring up what Dragons just sent me there because then I can read that in a minute. So that's awesome. Thank you, Dragon. That's very much appreciated. So I'm just going to go on to a couple of the little facts to do with the Strigoi, and then I will do the report about the Strigoi and the village that is associated with Dracula in Transylvania. So, how are Strigoi created? Humans can be turned forcibly into Strigoi. There is one way to forcibly make a Strigoi. If a Strigoi drinks blood from their victim and then forces that person to drink Strigoi blood, then they become Strigoi. It is also possible to willingly drink the blood of a Strigoi to become one. What does the word Strigoi mean? Strigoi means plural Strigoi. In Romanian folklore, a spirit that can transform into an animal or some ghostly appearance and cause problems for those who encounter it, including draining the vitality of victims through blood loss and vampire wrath, ghosts and phantoms. What's the difference between a vampire and a Strigoi? Moroi is the term for undead vampire who raised from the grave after being drained of their blood by another vampire. Strigoi are defined as living vampires, humans who are in fact infected with the vampirism while still alive. When was the first? Who was the first Strigoi? Gior Grando Alvervic. Early reports. One of the earliest mentions of the historical Strigoi was Juri Grando Alvervic from 1579 to 1656 from the region of Istria. The villager is believed to have been the first real person described as a vampire because he was referred to as a Strigoi, Strigoin, or Strigun in contemporary local records. So he was also reported as actually being a real factual figure and did exist. Does Strigoi exist? The Croatoan Giorgrada, who died in 1656, was the first vampire whose existence was documented. In his native Isteria, he was called Strigoi, a local dialect word to describe a vampire. He terrorized the villagers until beheaded in 1672. How do you protect against Strigoi? If someone could be Strigoi, the prevention was to strike a stake through the chest of the dead, or to take out his heart and burn it, or beheading the dead and putting their head in a coffin face down, or to seal the coffin with nails very heavily. Strigoi in Romanian mythology are troubled spirits that are said to have risen from the grave. They are attributed with the visible and to gain vitality from the blood of their victims. Part 3. In Romanian mythology, Stragois are either witches or the evil souls of the dead, rising from the tombs, or living, that transform into an animal or a phantom apparition. Many believe there are different types of Strigoi. Strigoi vile are living witches who will become vampires after death. They can send out their soul at night and meet with other witches or with Strigoi Mort, who are dead vampires. Strigoi Mort are the reanimated bodies which return to suck the blood of families, livestock, and neighbors. They are most often associated with vampires or zombies. A Strigoica signifies feminine form, or a Strigoica is a witch. Strigoi are also known as Morai in some parts, especially rural areas. They are close relatives of the werewolves known as Procelli or the Volkolek, the letters also meaning goblin. How to become a Strigoi. A person born with a cule, a veil of fetal membranes still attached to the head, a tail, born out of wedlock, died an unnatural death, or died before baptism, was doomed to become a vampire, as was the seventh child of the seventh sex of the seventh child of the same sex in a family, the child of a pregnant woman who didn't eat salt or was at looked at by a vampire or a witch, and naturally being bitten by a vampire meant certain condemnations for a vampiric existence after death. Other people doomed to become Strigois are unmarried people. Their corpses should be stabbed in the heart with a stake to protect their families. Corpses walked over by cats to get rid of them. A wine bottle must be buried next to the grave. Then 6 weeks later has to be exhumed and relatives and drank by the relatives. A person filled with a pain and regret will turn into a cat or a dog after death. They return as a Strigoi. Piercing a body with a needle will prevent it from leaving the grave. Appearances by Sylvanian mythologist, a Striga is most likely a woman, but there are exceptions when she is a male. According to the Romanian mythology, a Strigoi has ginger hair, blue eyes, and 2 hearts. Sounds a bit like my ex. Also, also Strigois can leave its body at night in the form of an animal or a small spark of light that can be seen flying through the air. Sometimes it was said that a Strigoi Vivu took animal from by stealing the form from the animal, behavior and features. In most ways, the Romanian Strigoi mortai resembled the undead vampire found in other Eastern European countries. They were frequently blamed as the cause of death in cases of epidemics. The Strigoi VII join together in covens and meet with the Strigoi mortai on special Sabbath nights, such as the Eve of St. George, April the 22nd. Strigoi Valio is not a blood drinker, but its powers include what could be called physic vampirism, as it can steal the vitality of his neighbours, crops, animals to enhance its own powers and abilities. Shapeshifting. The Strigoi can change into a variety of animals such as barn owls, bats, rats, cats, wolves, dogs, snakes, toads, lizards, and spiders, and insects. Invisibility. They also have the ability to render themselves invisible to some degree. Physicness. They also are known to be able to they are also known to be capable of creating damaging storms, blights, droughts, floods, and even poltergeist activity. Immortality. Strigoi stopped aging once turned upon their transformation. Strigoi then become immune to all conventional illnesses, diseases, viruses, and infections. Astral projection. Strigoi is, in some accounts, is also capable of a form of astral projection, appearing as shadows or ghosts. Superhuman strength. Strigois are much stronger than human. They are strong enough to swiftly snap the necks others if their victims don't take notice of them, and shattering gravestones, keeping them in their respective graves. Superhuman speed. Strigoi can accelerate their movements to cover short distances in an instant, faster than the human eye can see. When running across long distances, they appear as vibrating blurs of motion. Their weaknesses. The only known weakness is to cut off the head of the Strigoi. This makes many considered Strigois as more dangerous than a regular vampire, though their lack of exploitable is weakness. So in some categories, they are far, far worse than their vampire cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever you want to call them. And in other ways, they're not. Where you would find that there is not very many weaknesses in vampires apart from the facts of garlic, putting a stake in their heart, chopping off the head, and doing the same as what you would do with a Strigoi, okay? I guess the only difference is the fact that they do have a very monster-looking face, and they've got very sharp teeth all round, not just the fangs. They've got very sharp teeth, very long, sharp nails. So in some ways, it would be a lot more gruesome, I guess, coming into communication with them than being in the hands of a normal vampire, for instance. But all nonetheless, a very scary and dangerous creature. And it's said that they do exist. I'm just going to read the bit that I got from Lovely Dragon. This is an actual sighting Let's read what it says. A village still enthralled to Dracula. Romanians' ancient fear of vampires lie behind the grim graveyard ritual. The fate of Peter Thomas' corpse seemed to belie his reputation as an ordinary labourer in the fields that encircled the remote village called the Monte Jesu in southwest Romania. They took out his art, burnt it, and drank the ashes in a glass of water, says Elizabeth Marisescu, who was the neighbour of Thomas. After a life of sporadic illness, a moderate drinking, and a final deceive accident in the fields, Tom died in December 2003. But so many here say his spirit would not lie quiet. His own sister complained that their daughter-in-law had fallen ill and that Peter was to blame. She said he became a Strigoi and something must be done, recalls Marescu. With six local men did with what six local men did was extract an ancient Romanian ritual for dealing with Strigoi, a restless spirit that returns to suck the life blood from its relatives. Just before midnight, they creeped into the cemetery on the edge of the village and gathered around Thomas' grave. Then they dug him up, split his ribcage with a pitchfork, removed his art, put stakes through the rest of his body, and sprinkled it with garlic. Then they burnt the heart, put the embers into water, and shared the grim cocktail with the sick woman. More than a year later, the effect of the Macreed ritual still re- reverberates through the village. Well, the sick woman got better again, so they must have done something right, says Ansoria Constantine, on what constitutes the village's main street. Their cows and grubby geese away and horses pull carts past old men who sit motionless in the shades of a few broad trees. The air seethes with bird song and the noise of farm animals throughout is dung straw backyard. Time moves slowly and ritual and superstition shape the lives of peasants who gained little under communism and even less from the archaeology that came before and the free market that followed it. They fear curses and the evil eye, and though some claim not to fear the undead, none would condemn the six men for doing what they believed was right, to lay a restless Strigoi. Local police appeared to be less understanding after Thomas' daughter complained. They arrested the men and charged them with illegal exhuming his corpse. They were sentenced to 6 months in jail but did not serve it. No one is bothered who did it. It's their own business, declared 80-year-old Tudor Storcher, shading his face with a fraying hat. This ritual often takes place, but in secret, within the family. The problem comes when the police get involved. He said the Strigoi had haunted Romanian nightmares for centuries, describing it as a fiendish thing, ungodly, that wants to do evil. It brings illness, makes inexamable noises, and is invisible. But just as Bram Stoker blend age of old fears of the undead with the legend of the 15th century Transylvania ruler Valid Dracula Teps to create Dracula, so tales of the Strigoi often carry a whiff of the vampire, the man who exhumed the corpses of Peter Thomas, for instance, claimed to have seen fresh blood around his mouth. In the village of Celiaru, a few miles from Morteniu du Suz, Maria Draguma, 76, recalls hearing about scores of similar events. A child born feet first or with bits of plasma still attached carries a lifelong mark of the potential Strigoi, and when he dies, knitting needles must be forced through his heart and navel to stop him haunting the living, she says. Draguma makes up little bags that locals put beneath the heads of the dead. They contain grain, small stones, and a comb, a mirror, and an apple, a combination that some believe capable of persuading a Strigoi to lay quiet. As EU leaders assured Romania on Friday that they still wanted to join in 2007, people here were more interested in the latest story to excite their fascination with the occult. A nun had died after being tied to a cross and left without food in a freezing room for 3 days. The monk and the nuns are accused. Uh, the monk and nun accused of killing her said they had been exorcising her of evil spirits. So she could have been a Strigoi. Thank you for that, my lovely dragon. That was really, really fascinating. So obviously in this story, they very much do believe in the Strigoi. This man died in 2003, and the story of a sighting of him was meant to have been found around 2005, where it's believed that he'd made family members, in fact, become very sick, and 6 men took it upon their hands to do a ritual over his grave and over him, to stop the Strigoi from being able to be released and bringing havoc and evilness up on the rest of the planet and on the rest of that community. Yes, the men were arrested and were supposed to have been sentenced for 6 months, but they didn't do that trial because a lot of people really did believe in the Strigoi and believed that there was something ungodly happening in their neighborhood, and they felt that through these men doing this, it was able to calm it down. But there are still tales and myths of this creature still existing, and the most recent one has been a nun that was apparently found tied on a cross by one of her fellow nuns, and a monk that had said they'd been trying to exorcism her to remove a very dark spirit, which I'm sure they are referring to as being the Strigoi. And these creatures very much come to people that have issues and problems. A lot of them will go after living people to take them over. You can eventually become a Strigoi yourself by drinking the blood of a Strigoi, or allowing that to drink your blood and then you drink its blood back. It's a very morbid creature and a very scary one, and very much vampire. Okay, and it's most definitely not one that I would want to come to face with. Like some of the facts that they give behind why you would become one, I I don't completely agree with. Like if you're a witch, no, there is nothing evil or bad about being a witch, in my opinion. It really does depend on what you choose to do. So I don't really believe in that part. I don't believe that, if you're a witch, you become a Strigoi. I don't believe that at all. Um, but some, maybe they do. Maybe if it has happened to a witch, maybe she's done something that it has been unknown of. And that's why she turned that way. Unmarried people. There's a lot of people in this world that are unmarried and had children out of wedlock. And I really can't see that being a reason to why you'd be Strigoi as well. If there's love, contentment, and goodness in a person and in their child that they've given birth to, then I really don't see why you'd become Strigoi. But I guess in some people's religions and faiths, they very much believe in that sort of thing. So I guess it's different for everybody. So, but still, a very interesting creature, and it's definitely one that I wouldn't want to come across. Hello, Robert, my darling, how are you? Well, for her to be very, very sick and them not finding any way out for her, and then to go and do that ritual, bring up his body and do what they did to him, and then miraculously a couple of days later to a week later, she's feeling better. I think that, the ritual could have been very real. As a witch myself and somebody that does rituals to heal and help people, I know that they're real and they do work. And when you put the intention and the belief into it, there is no reason why they wouldn't. So I believe they could very well have done, a legit ritual, but it's not really something that I can give you a full expectation on because I wasn't there to witness it. Okay. But, if they really believed in what they do and that's something that's part of their faith and their religion and their community, then I don't see why not. If I can sit here and light candles and put people's names in to give them healing and love and help them to feel a bit better, and it's happened, I really don't see why they wouldn't be able to as well. And I'm not one of these people that will turn around and say that something doesn't exist either. I'm one of these that I believe in everything until I can prove differently, and I very much believe that there is a vampire energy out there. I do. You quite often when you've got your spirit box on, you've got certain energies that are come over going on about biting your neck, saying that they're vampires. Vampires to a lot of people, they see them as something that's on TV, like these human looking creatures that bite you. They're absolutely beautiful and they change you and you get eternal life. Yeah, maybe that is the case, but that they don't look like that. These Strigoi are more what vampires would look like. They can take human form, they can take animal form. Um, some vampiric energies are energies that just, suck the life out of you, make you drained. It doesn't necessarily have to be to do with blood. It can be draining your energy. It can be also, there's so many different types of vampire. There are even living human vampires today that the people that believe that they're vampires, they'll go round and make themselves like they look like vampires. They'll be very pale. They get their teeth done. They drink blood. They look younger. A living vampire. There are so many different types to them. And, for you to say, do you think that, this ritual was legit? I can't say that 100%, but I'm not going to sit there and say that rituals don't come true and rituals don't work because I do them myself to help others and they work. So very much so. If they really believed that this woman needed the help and they believed that it was her relative and she'd implied that, then, I think that maybe they'd done the right thing to help her. It may seem quite morbid that you've got to dig him up and you have to do those certain things, but when it comes to certain creatures and animals to keep them at bay, you have to do some pretty gruesome things to keep them at bay. So, and with vampires and stuff, you do need to put a stake through the heart and you do need to chop the head off and you do other things like put nails in the coffin and make sure that it's properly fastened, that they can't escape. turning them upside down so that they're not facing upwards. You know, a lot of these, there's even the same as witches, as going as far as putting certain metal into the coffin or over the coffin so that the coffin can't be lifted by the energy that's in it. You know, there's many things that can be done. And it's most definitely a very interesting creature, most definitely. And like I said, it's not one that I would want to come across. I've had quite a few video stuff, like where I've been live, and I've had spirit boxes on, and I've had certain energies come over going, "You've got a beautiful neck, I'm going to bite it, I'm a vampire, run," things like that. Like, you know, and sometimes people wake up with very strange markings on their body, like little bite marks and stuff. And they're like, some people say, "Oh, it's a spider and that," but some of the bites that you get, they don't look spider like. There's like two little marks that you just don't know, do you? Really? It's that you're very welcome. I know that you wanted that to be done, and I like to keep my people happy. So me and Jana very much dove into this. Again, she is very sorry that she couldn't make it, but she and her son are not very well, bless them. And we do hope that you get well, sweetheart, and that you start to feel better. I think I've done pretty well. Again, as I said, I will post this out onto the Facebook and Bold and Bonkers, my group, my big group. That's PWI, The Strange and the Unknown streaming network. So I will be posting it out onto there with the Dracula stuff as well, guys. So I hope that you did enjoy the story. And again, I do apologize about the reading. As you know, I'm dyslexic, so some of it I do struggle with, which is why I do like to get all of my content wrote down and stuff like that, so that you guys can read it thoroughly the way that you want to. Anybody that hasn't got me on Facebook and that, please add me under Sherry Brett, guys. You are more than welcome to do that, to keep in contact with me. You can also email me as well if you want to email me on sherryannb84@gmail.com. Why not give us some ideas for after New Year's? Next week, we are going to be just doing an open panel where we're going to get lots of people to come up. We're just going to have a laugh. We're going to have a talk. We'll talk about all things spirits, ghosts, alien, all sorts. Just have a really lovely Christmas special where we just get a lot of people to come up. We just have like talks and stuff. We're not going to be doing any more topic shows till after New Year's, but over the holiday, the Christmas holiday, I will be doing a few investigation ones that I will stream through my channel and the company. But as for doing the Lost Magic show, the way that me and Jana would normally do it, that won't be starting back until after New Year's. If there's any ideas or anything that you want for a topic for us to come back with, make it a really good one, a really interesting topic, okay? And we'll cover it, but make sure you give us plenty of notice. So give us, at least get it into us about a couple of days before New Year's, so we can look in for the following week and look into a topic. Me and Jana will put our heads together and try and think of something as well, you know, because your input and things that you guys want to hear us talk about is really important. You know, this is what this show's about. It's for you guys and for things that you're going to find interesting to learn about and hear about. So add me on Facebook or come and message me on the email, like I said. Oh, you've had me on TikTok as well. Yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, give me some ideas, guys. Anything. It could be alien, spirit, witches, anything. So just let me know. And I know, like, I do apologize about what I said in there about when it said about the ginger hair and that, but one of my exes that were really nasty to me years and years back, that was violent to me, not my last ex that I had, but the one before that, that was my daughter's dad. He was red haired and that, so he very much was a Strigoi then, blatantly, if he likes to hurt people and whatever. But there you go. I met my very own one. Oh my God, Dragon. Oh my God. Yeah, no, unfortunately, he's still around as well. So, it actually went longer than I didn't think it was going to go over an hour. I didn't think I had enough content, but with the help of having that article at the end, and I realised there was still a little bit on the research I'd got that I'd forgot about, it went an hour and 11 minutes. So that's awesome. That's what I wanted. So I hope that you guys did enjoy the show. Remember, next week, guys, we are just an open panel. Anyone can come on and we're going to have a laugh and talk about all sorts of different things. There'll be myself and Jana. There will be 8 spaces open. The show that week, that day is going to go on for quite a while, even if Jana does drop down at some point because she's got to go and sort her kids or whatever. I'm going to carry it on, and I'm going to be getting it where people can come up and then they go down and then some more people can come up, because there's going to be a lot of different people hopefully joining. And I am also going to be doing a Saturday show that I'm going to be doing on my channel and running through the company one as well, because some of the guys are not going to be able to join me for the Friday show. So that show could be more for you guys, the ones that are into the paranormal and everything else. And then the Saturday show can be a mix and will probably be a lot to do with like extraterrestrial, spirit, spirituality, stuff like that. So yeah, the next couple of weeks are going to be very interesting. Oh my dear. So my angels, I hope that you enjoyed the show. I hope that you found this educational. Look out for the content on Facebook, Bold and Bonkers, and on my channel as well, guys, on Facebook. But for me, I'm going to say a good night to you all. Lots of love, light, and blessings. I hope that you stay real, you stay safe, and you stay true. And remember that when you go to sleep, those spirits creep and they're always around you. And keep looking for the sky, because the extraterrestrial are there and watching you. And any shows, any ideas for any shows, again, message me on Sherry Brett, my email, or even right under this video. Okay? And we'll take the ideas. Lots of love, light, and blessings, my angels. Love you all. And a big shout out to all of our sponsors, supporters, TV networks, and all the people that put us out there every day to make this happen. We will see you all very, very soon. God bless, and see you all very soon.